Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the Moody mini-series today. We are thrilled to welcome corporate communications alumnus Sara Malek Barney, founder and principal designer of the Austin-based Van Design Interiors. Sara, welcome. A little bit about Sara. Prior to launching Van Design, Sara spent the first phase of her professional career working in the fast-paced entertainment industry, serving with companies such as South by Southwest, CAA, and the Ellen DeGeneres Show, just to name a few. Her past experiences helps her deliver timeless, unique designs for her clients. An Austin native, Sara spent nearly a decade in sunny Los Angeles, California, where she met her writer husband, Dana. While they were both chasing their Hollywood dream, they decided to come back to their home turf in Austin, Texas. Sara was named one of Fortune magazine's most powerful women, Next Gen, one of Austin Monthly's Women to Watch, and is a member of the American Society of Interior Designs and the Female Founder Collective. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So Sara, thank you so much again for coming. One of the questions that was submitted multiple times, and I asked myself the same thing when I first met you, was what made you decide to move into interior design from the entertainment space?
Yeah, so I do get that question a lot because it is kind of a funny transition. Design was always something I sort of did for fun, and I never realized I was doing it. I never realized it as a career. I loved working in the entertainment industry. That's what I wanted to do since I was a kid. But I got to a point where I wanted to create something for myself. And I joke that I'm both very type A and very creative. And so just one day a light bulb went off and I was like, what about interior design? And so I went back to school and got a degree in interior design. And I really think my past experience working in entertainment, having a degree in communication really lent itself to doing really well in the design field as well.
Very, very neat. Well, we are so glad to have you as a Moody alumnus and with this whole other career path that you took that is just so beneficial to so many people, especially right now in this COVID-19 pandemic environment where families are working from home, their children are schooling from home. And one of the questions that I was wondering about was, you know, with parents working from home, with children and their online schooling from home, how would you recommend from a design standpoint accommodating this sort of new environment that we're tackling?
So obviously we're dealing with this a lot. I am dealing with it myself. I have 2 kids at home trying to homeschool and handle all of that. So the thing that I recommend more than anything else is creating workspaces for everyone. Even if you don't have the space, really making a purposeful spot for everyone. Right now, myself, we're not even living in our home, we're living in a rental because we're remodeling. And the first day of school, when we had to homeschool, we didn't have desks for the kids. So we literally took a piece of cardboard and divided the dining room table into 2. And it made them feel all of a sudden like they had desk spaces where they could sit and work. So it's really a matter of creating your own space that is yours and yours alone. Even if it's 100 of you living there, everybody needs to have their own workspace because it really helps them sit and focus and really be productive and get the work done that they got done before when they were working in the office or at school.
Very good to know. So kind of like that dedicated space is a big recommendation.
Important. Very, very important. Yep.
And so another thing in working from home, research has been showing that, you know, working from home, potentially being isolated from friends, family, and coworkers may take a toll on your mental health. What are your recommendations on designing a positive environment for a healthy mentality?
So the biggest thing I can recommend, and this goes for being at home in any capacity, whether it's working, just living, relaxing, is really focusing on lighting and really looking at both the ambient light that you're bringing into a space with overhead lighting, table lamps, task lighting, but also your access to natural lighting, because that will really improve your mental capacity. Getting in some of that vitamin D and some of that natural light every day is super important. So the number one thing is hands down, make sure your lighting is killer wherever you're working or relaxing. For any scenario, create lighting schemes for different activities you're doing in your home.
Wonderful, thank you. And Are you seeing trends emerge right now during the pandemic? Are clients doing anything differently in their design choices? Are they designing for aesthetics right now or for comfort?
I mean, I think it's always a little bit of both. We design very much for functionality and comfort first and being able to use it in an everyday situation. There are a lot more home offices coming up for sure, and spaces that can transition easily between work and play. So that is a big trend that's happening for us, something that's almost like a transformer of a space. During the day it can work as your office, but at night it could easily function as something else, whether it be a dining space, a kid's workspace, a playroom. So things that can have multi-functions is probably a big trend that we're moving towards.
Okay. And what are three simple things that our audience can do right now that you recommend?
So three simple things. One, create that workspace for sure, that dedicated workspace, and have comfortable seating there that supports you. A lot of people have like back problems or leg problems or knee problems. Keep those things into consideration. Also, look for, just because it's a workspace doesn't mean it has to be called work or office furniture. You can have a desk chair that isn't a desk chair. It doesn't have to be those things. So think outside the box a little bit for the items that you're bringing in, and maybe you can repurpose some stuff you already have to create that environment for you. And then again, make sure you have plenty of good lighting, and you're able to really see your space very well. Task lighting is great for that at a desk. And just make sure you're surrounded by a lot of texture and pattern and softness that you can really cozy up in if you want to, but then also just feel comfortable in on a daily basis.
Got it. Thank you. And switching gears a little bit away from working from home offices, pandemic type of environment, and more into the interior design side, just in general, when you first work with a client and they kind of don't know what theme or direction they want to go in, how do you recommend picking a theme around which to design your home or your rooms?
So it's a great question, and obviously one we deal with a lot. So the big thing about design in general is it's very subjective, and you can say you like modern, and I could say I like modern, and those could be two totally different things. So the first thing that we do is really try to get on the same design page and really make sure we're speaking that same language, and we do that through visual communication, and that is sharing photos, talking about what we like and don't like in those photos, looking at inspiration and different patterns and colors and where we're kind of drawing these different ideas from, and just in coming together collaboratively in that sense. But also the thing you want to look at is the style of your home. You can be super modern but have a very Tuscan home. You don't want, obviously, if you put super modern inside a Tuscan home, it's going to look like it doesn't quite fit. So you want to find a way to marry those two things. I don't necessarily think you have to have a theme, but I do think honing in on the things that you like and don't like and trying to get that clear visual communication of what it is that you're really being drawn towards is very helpful when putting together your space, and kind of getting that base coat for where you're going to build up from will help it all feel um, like it all goes together.
Got it. Thank you for that. And so, a lot of us are shopping right now, whether that's on Amazon or furniture stores. I know that when I'm looking for pieces to kind of complete my home that I moved into about a year ago, I'm finding that things are sold out and everyone's at home kind of shopping right now and reinventing their spaces. Do you have any favorite places to shop? It could be shopping on a budget as well here locally in Austin, or even online retailers that you would recommend.
Yeah. I won't even go into the whole things being out of stock thing, because that is a big issue kind of across the board. And there's many reasons for that are COVID related, of course. But there's a lot of places I like to shop, but I do like to go a little bit off the beaten path. So in town, I'm a big vintage shopper. So I love Uptown Modern. I love the Austin Antique Mall. And I do a lot online as well. I've become a big junkie fan of this website called Live Auctioneers, which is live auctions for vintage pieces. Sometimes they're new pieces, but sometimes they're vintage, and they have everything. I mean, they have jewelry, they have furniture, they have everything, and you can really fall down a rabbit hole for that. I love actually finding like really cool small batch home accessories on Etsy. There's a lot of great craftsmen out there that are making really fun stuff that you can get. And yeah, I mean, I'm a big online shopper, much to the dismay of my husband. And Amazon's still really great. sorry to say. I do love CB2. I think what they do is really pretty and fun and really well made. And it sounds pretty basic, but Pottery Barn actually makes really great stuff too.
Great, thank you. Yes, I know that CB2 has been coming out with some great stuff these past few months, and I hadn't heard of the Austin Antiques Mall, so that's next on my list for this weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we talked a little bit about, if you're at home with children and even setting up a desk space, and it might even have to be like just putting a cardboard in between to make sure you're having a dedicated space. Kind of similar to that, do you have tips in general for small multifunctional spaces like office gym or anything like that else in your home?
Well, I think your biggest friend in that scenario is going to be storage, and hidden storage is going to be key. So whether it be bins where you can put, say if it's like a den, but also a kid's homeschooling space during the day, or even like a playroom, just bins where you can hide away those smaller items, because that's what always gets us bogged down in the mess, is the little bitty things that start to collect, and you're just like, that's why we all have junk drawers. So it's having a space where you can store those things away and tuck them away when you're not using them. And I also think really thinking about the usage of the space. If it is a home gym, obviously you're not going to want to leave your weights out all day long. So it's a matter of being able to tuck it, but also easily access it. So having furniture that moves around a lot, pieces that move easily, is going to be the biggest key to creating a space that you can use for multiple purposes, that and storage.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know I have a treadmill now right next to my desk.
Yeah, and it's constantly haunting you, being like, get on me.
It is. Every day at lunch, it looks at me.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one's a little bit different, and we'll see how we can go with this question. But in general, are there certain things that you look for when you're selecting general contractors for your own space or other spaces that you're working on?
Yeah, we work with a lot of different contractors, of course. And what I tell clients, and I just tell friends and family in general, is get more than one bid for sure. And especially in a place like Austin, labor bids are going to vary wildly. I said earlier, we're remodeling our own home. We got 3 different bids. They were all 3 completely different bids, totally different ends of the spectrum. And I'd say, don't go with just the cheapest one just because they're the cheapest. Look for somebody who's really detail oriented, somebody who's listening when you're walking them through the space to bid on it, and has an open line of communication, so you don't have to worry about not kind of knowing what's going on and what's not. So that doesn't necessarily mean pick the cheapest. It means pick the one that you're jiving with the best. And it is a person that you're going to be working with. So you want somebody that you get along with and that you genuinely like and want to have around your home.
Got it. Thank you so much. We do have a question from the audience that I saw that I wanted to address, because I was wondering the same thing right now. What are some of the fun things that you're purchasing on Etsy?
Well, I mean, I should like pull it up. It's like so much fun stuff. I actually I just got these like really cool leather stools from Morocco on Etsy. We get a ton, we actually buy a ton of vintage Turkish rugs on Etsy. They're coming directly from Turkey, and you would think that would make it like take forever to get here and super expensive shipping, but usually it's free shipping and they get here in like a week. How it works, I don't know. But it's a really great source for very well priced rugs. So we've gotten a lot of like really fun like little pieces of furniture like that. And then like some craftsmen who make vases and little bowls, and little like decor items are always great to use too, because I get tired of sort of seeing the same stuff out there at Home Goods and wherever else. So it's great to kind of mix in those funky pieces. And I do find a lot of vintage stuff too. We actually recently got some vintage drawer pulls that were from a French pharmacy, a French pharmacy back in like the 1800s that we put on a cabinet. So there's a lot of like fun little accessories you can play with too. So I think door hardware is another great one.
That is amazing. Thanks for that tip.
Oh yeah, there's so much fun stuff on Etsy. Like it's like a bottomless pit.
Very, very cool. So I want to jump just a little bit into more getting into the interior design side. A couple of the audience members had asked before we started this broadcast today about moving into your industry. Maybe they didn't study that initially. What are your recommendations for moving into this industry for those that are interested, but also how any obstacles that you faced when you did move into the industry.
Yeah, so I think probably one of the things that kept me out of the industry for so long, or it took me so long to kind of get here, is the intimidation behind it. I was very intimidated by it, thought it was going to be very closed off and not welcoming. And I now know that's not the case at all. I would highly recommend, you don't have to necessarily study, lots of architectural history or anything like that. I mean, that's always great to do, but I don't think that that's necessarily where you need to start. Design is a subjective thing, and you either have an eye for it or you don't. So if you have an eye for it, the things you really need to learn are like the basic skills that you're going to need every day. And those are very much in line with business, like how to invoice and how to bill and how to do those things, but then also learning softwares where you can draw out scaled floor plans and learning a lot about the industry from a trade perspective. So looking at those different vendors that you can order pieces from. We have a lot of resources that are only available to designers. So really like digging in deep to those layers are what's really going to help you transition over, and talking to other designers about what's going on in the industry and how they transitioned over. I think it welcomed me with open arms in a way I never expected it to, but it's just a matter of jumping in there and doing it. So yeah, it was sort of that light bulb moment for me, and it's just a matter of learning the day-to-day skills of what you're going to be doing in the field versus trying to go back all the way back and be like, well, let's study, Roman architecture, and now, look at all these different columns. I don't necessarily think you need to know all that right off the bat.
Got it. So I know in the entertainment industry, especially in film and television, there's so many networking groups and blogs and Facebook groups that you can kind of join to get mentors and internships and tips and advice. Does this industry also have something similar to that? And if so, where would you go to find those blogs or these networking sites?
There are a few. We use a design software called Ivy, and we use it in our business. We use it for invoicing and just day-to-day operations. But there's a very robust Facebook group that goes along with the software, and that has been a game changer for the entire industry because we're able to share, different bits of information with one another. I know that different communities, depending on their city, will have networking groups where you can meet other people and kind of get paired up. I know specifically there's one in Austin called Creative Ladies Night, and it's not just designers, it is pretty designer heavy, but it's all women in creative fields who are trying to network and get to know one another. And it's a great resource for like if I need a contractor and I've met a lady contractor at the meeting. So there's a lot of really cool people in those groups as well. So I would say like actually, and this is gonna sound kind of basic, but poke around on Facebook because there are a ton of them. So there's a lot of really good ones of people willing to help out, more so than I think I would have ever expected before.
That's great advice. I know Facebook right now has a group for just about everything. If you're
Seriously.
gluten-free or keto or anything in between, you can find it. You can
We'll find the gluten-free interior design mentor keto group.
Exactly. And so I did have a question, and this one's been asked a couple of times today. So I wanted to get your opinion and advice on it. What are your thoughts about minimalism in general? A lot of people are trying to go minimalist, and that's, with the home edit and, all these shows on Netflix kind of talking about, Marie Kondoing your space. And what are your thoughts about minimalism at home and also for home office, where offices used to be, file cabinets and paperwork and all of that?
Yeah. I'm a minimalist sort of in general to begin with. I don't like stuff for the sake of stuff. I don't necessarily want things to be bare, but I don't think we need a lot of clutter. And I think the biggest piece of that is trying to get away from the emotional attachment to things. There's a good example where like if you have a collection of something, if it's really important to you, that's one thing. But if you've inherited it, keep one item from it. Don't keep the entire collection. As long as it brings you back those memories and that joy, you don't need to have the entire collection there. So paring back as much as possible. I think in a home office, so much of it is digital now that our HR person, they don't even have a file cabinet. They just have everything digitally and everything's in the cloud. So there's really no need for us to have a file cabinet. There's those big files that you, of course, have to have no matter what, like your birth certificate and all those important documents. But the amount of files that we would need to have, we don't have anymore. In fact, my mom asked me the other day if she could come to the office and file. And I was like, file what? We have no file cabinets. We have nowhere to put files. What are you talking about, file? So I do think trying to pare back as much as possible actually will help your mental sanity too. Just like start throwing stuff away. You don't need it. Like you don't need it. And sometimes I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to that, but just like kind of going through and just getting rid of it.
Thank you. Yes, we're always working on Marie Kondoing our spaces.
I just don't keep anything. I just throw everything out.
So just a couple of questions on the design side that some of the audience had was about colors and scheme and using accent colors, just kind of basic design for your home. Are there basic recommendations when it comes to an accent wall or just an accent color?
Yeah, so my big recommendation is to don't do them. I'm not a big fan. I mean, we do them from time to time, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a big fan of accent walls or accent colors. And I'll tell you why. With accent walls specifically, it creates more attention to it than what you're actually wanting. So the reason somebody's doing an accent wall is because they are too afraid to paint, say, for example, paint their entire room dark blue. Well, when you paint one wall dark blue and everything else is white, then all you're noticing is that dark blue wall, and that ends up having a much more severe visual impact on you than if the whole room were painted dark blue. And I think people have this misconception that if they say painted a room dark blue, it'd make it feel smaller. And actually when a room is all one color, it usually makes it feel bigger and more expansive versus choppy and broken up with an accent wall.
Oh, well, that's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I never would have thought about it that way.
Yeah, go for it. Don't tiptoe around it. Just do it.
Okay. So one of my final questions for you today is, what are you working on right now that you're excited about?
So many things. No, we've got a ton of great projects down the pipeline and I'm really loving it. It's everybody's moving to Austin as they were before the pandemic, but now people are really moving to Austin because we were in a pandemic and they can now work from anywhere. So they're finally leaving New York, California, Chicago, Houston. We've got a lot of clients who are moving from all over. So I'm really excited to sort of welcome them to Austin, really show them the Austin design scene. And actually just today, I got our issue of Austin Home Magazine, which has one of our projects featured in it. So I was really excited about that too.
Well, that's wonderful. I can't wait to pick that up.
Yeah.
So Sara, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for all of our guests for tuning in. We look forward to seeing everyone on September 25th for our next event in the Moody mini series. It is called Moving Pictures from Comic Books to Hollywood. And if you haven't RSVP'd yet, you can do so the same way you did for Sara Talk. And thank you so much for joining us, Sara. We look forward to many more discussions about interior design over the year with you.
Oh, fun. Hook 'em.
Thank you. Hook 'em.